When I first started the gym, I'd cut out chocolate, sweets, all types of junk food, but I had no idea what to replace them with. So I went down this deep, deep rabbit hole of research. I figured out, you know, how many minutes after training I should be drinking my protein shake, the exact optimal amount of water to be drinking every day while taking my creatine. I obsessed over every little detail, every gram of protein. I obsessed over it all, and it paid off because my gains exploded to the point where I literally got stretch marks because my biceps grew so quick. Honestly, doesn't look that good in this lighting, but I literally got stretch marks because my biceps grew so fast. And today I'll teach you the most important things that I learned in my 2 years of deep research into this topic. First point, maintaining weight and or being in a calorie surplus. So when you're first starting out in the gym, you want to go by the rule mass moves mass, which is like just some rule in physics that basically the heavier you are, the heavier weight you can move. It makes sense. If some 400-pound guy walks into the gym, he can bench press more than some 110-pound skinny neck guy can. It just makes more sense, yeah? So when you're going into the gym and you're thinking, all right, I'm going to lose loads of weight, I'm going to get really massive, don't think about it as losing the weight, because the more weight you can move, the bigger your muscles can grow. So, completely natural, by the way, 100% natural. So I thought I should preface that. But yeah, as I was saying, if you weigh less, then you can move less. So, if someone bulks up an extra 10 kilos, then their bench goes up so much higher, and they build more muscle. That's why you cut and bulk, is so you can build more muscle and then look really good, and then build more muscle and then look really good. But if you just don't cut, hold off on cutting for 6 months to maybe a year of your first training, just to get your newbie gains fully stretched out, well, that's 2 years, but if you can just make the most of that while being in a calorie surplus, maybe 250 calories extra maximum, then you will be in the golden zone to build the optimal amount of muscle in all aspects, all parts of your body, And it's just such an overlooked piece of advice that I've never heard anyone else give before. And to be honest, I think the standard protein advice is a load of horseshit. Because 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight, I work in kilograms, blow me. 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. So that means at my current weight, I would be consuming 180 grams of protein a day. That is an absurd amount. I do not need 180 grams of protein a day, even with all this muscle. If you're a 150 kilogram guy, he's just really obese, you would not be eating 300 grams of protein. You don't need to. It's stupid. Because it doesn't take into account, fat mass. It's just, 2.2 grams per kilogram, 1.1 gram per pound of body weight. It's stupid. It's stupid. Don't follow that. I'll give you some more advice on how much protein you should be having later on. As a general rule of thumb, I don't think I've ever surpassed 120 grams of protein in a day. And I've managed to put on some decent... wow, I look tiny in this. This lighting is not good. But, yeah. I've managed to pack on a lot of muscle, and I've never had the stupid 200 grams of protein a day that some people are recommending. It's just unnecessary. Your body can't even, utilize all that protein. It'll just go to your liver. I don't think you can ever have too much... New phrase. Having too much protein will never won't damage you unless you've got some pre-existing condition. But there's just no point wasting that protein that day if it's not going to give you any more benefit. That's what I was trying to say. Now, you want to have complex carbs 30 to 60 minutes before your workout. And I never advocate for carbs. I really dislike carbs. I hate how they make me feel, how they make my brain go all mushy, I can't think straight, and they just leave me feeling awful if I have too many. So this is the only time I will ever advocate for complex carbs, for carbs at all. It has to be complex carbs. So, you know, ideally it'd be a banana, whole wheat pasta and tuna to get some extra protein in, a slice of brown bread with a little bit of butter on for fat. You don't want anything way too heavy so that you'll be going into the gym feeling stuffed. Just something enough to give you that little spike of energy when you get into the gym, because carbs are really good for energy. Just for me, they're not good for any other time. I don't think that I should. I think I'm quite carb sensitive, and you might not be, but I think as a general rule of thumb, humans shouldn't really eat carbs all that much. I think the only carbs we should get should be from fruit and veg, you know, clean sources. But now let's get into what you actually should be eating. Red meat / mincemeat. This is non-negotiable. This is like the gold star protein source. It is so protein dense per calorie, like, it is a ridiculous amount of protein for how little calories are in it. Red meat is always going to be like the king of meats. It's so good for you in so many other ways. It's got zinc, it's got iron, so many vitamins. It is just what we should be eating as humans. So a lot of that. Eggs. Obviously, you know, the hypermasculine space has come to love eggs recently, and gym lads have always loved eggs. I don't think raw eggs are all that, you know, great. I don't really think you're destroying much by scrambling an egg. So how I normally do my eggs is I just get a jug, crack 5 eggs in a jug, get a tablespoon of butter, chuck it in a pan, heat that up, let it all go around, tip the eggs in, literally just stir it around for about 30 seconds to a minute on quite a high heat. That's it. So simple. 35 grams of protein, got your fats in, brilliant. Protein shakes. I highly recommend having your protein shakes with water due to the testosterone lowering effects of milk. I've never had a protein shake with milk, like, consistently. I've tried it a couple of times. It's just not for me. And it's also just less calories. So if you are trying to be in a calorie deficit, you know, you're going against the previous advice, then, you know, go for it. But I think protein shakes should be better with water. A little tip: if you put warm water in and then you put your protein scoop in, it'll actually mix a lot better. And then if you just like chuck it in the fridge or something, not hot, but like, you know, lukewarm room temperature water, then chuck it in the fridge for 10 minutes, then it'll mix so much better. The same with creatine. I normally mix my creatine in with a peppermint tea, or I tried it with green tea, it was minging. But mixing it in with a tea, you don't even know it's there. It's brilliant. Any other meats will be perfectly fine. So chicken, I can't think of other meats now. Lamb. Pork it's not great. It's very fatty, pork, but not like, you know, it's a lot of fat. And most pork cuts aren't very good. So sausages, bacon, they're no good. That's just gristle. If you can get pork belly slices, that's brilliant. Pork loins, excellent. but most cuts of pork are crap. Chicken breasts, obviously, you know, gym rat's dream. You want tuna. I mentioned this earlier. Tuna and oily fish, so salmon and, you know, just other types of fish. Any fish is going to be good for you, but tuna and salmon especially, because they've got omega-6, and we've got such an overwhelming amount of omega-3s in our environment that the omega-6 needs to come in to balance it out. Otherwise it causes a unbalance in our hormone levels, and that was loud, and it basically just messes up hormone shit. So oily fish are absolutely brilliant. They just have so many benefits. EAA supplements. So this is essential amino acid supplements. I get the one from MyProtein. It's grape flavor or whatever. Whenever I take this, it's strange. The next day I have no DOMS, so delayed onset muscle soreness, from the gym. It's really strange. I found this so good when I first started going to the gym. It's just, it completely gets rid of my DOMS for some reason. So I recommend that to every single beginner, because, you know, you don't have to ache the next day. Some people like the ache, but honestly, I did a 1 week fast and I trained legs really hard, and I wished I could have taken this, because I literally struggled to walk for 3 days because I had no protein coming in. So this stuff just works miracles, honestly. Low carb vegetables, so that'll be your peppers, broccolis, celery, etc., stuff like that. Tomatoes, I think, are pretty good. Onions are actually not great for carbs, so you want to watch out for onions. That's something I didn't realise before. But you want to try and stick to a low carb type diet, apart from your complex carbs before your workout, especially if you're trying to get more lean and trying to cut down. If you're trying to maintain, doesn't really matter. You don't really need carbs either way. I think the benefits of not having the carbs far outweigh the benefits of having them. You know, the constant bloaty pudginess, the carb crashes. Some people get brain fog. I've never really experienced brain fog all that much from them. My mind goes a little bit, but it's not like I can't think clearly. Fruits are absolutely key for this diet plan because of the micronutrients in there. This helps maintain your testosterone. There's so many different types of fruits, obviously. Bananas you want to be having for your complex carbs before your workout. Berries are absolutely incredible for this because they contain so many different micronutrients, and especially blueberries. Blueberries are just, you know, superfood. Blueberries are also incredible for increasing your testosterone because they reduce your cortisol levels. And cortisol can suppress testosterone production because it's the stress hormone. I don't really know what the stress hormone has to do with reducing testosterone, but hey ho, if you have higher cortisol levels, your testosterone will decrease. So reduce your cortisol levels and your testosterone will increase. Sorted. Handful of blueberries every day. Sorted. You need to be drinking 2 to 3 litres of water every single day. If you're taking creatine, I'll get onto that in a sec, you definitely need to be having at least 3 litres of water every single day. Otherwise you will get extremely dehydrated, and being dehydrated hinders muscle growth and repair. So basically, if you only drink like 500 mils of water, you will literally, your gym session that day was, 50% less effective. If you don't hit your protein goal, another 30% less effective. It just goes down. You want to maximize that as much as you can. So 2 to 3 liters of water, depending on how big you are. Obviously, if you're some 5'4" fucking midget, then 2 liters will be more than enough. But if you're some 6'7" giga chad, 3 liters, maybe even more. Anyway, creatine, 3 grams a day, every single day, non-negotiable. It makes you look bigger. You can lift heavier, and it's just a no-brainer. I don't see why there's an argument about creatine. If you already have a biological predisposition to baldness, meaning you're going to go bald anyway, it can accelerate that, but just buzz your hair. It's not that deep. No, but seriously, you won't go bald from creatine. That just doesn't happen. All these claims and scientific studies, load of shit. Science doesn't exist. But you'll actually be able to get more reps out of your sets if you actually take creatine, because you use ATP, which is an energy system. It's biology shit. Basically, you use ATP as your main energy source. It's like oxygen and stuff. While you're, let's take the bench press for example. You're trying to hit 10 to 15 rep range. Your first 10 to 12 reps, you're sorted, you're using your ATP system. The ones where you really start to struggle, you're trying to get it up, that will be switching to using the creatine system, which is a different type of energy system, which is made for explosive power. So if you have higher creatine levels in your blood, yeah, then you will actually be able to use more of this creatine energy system because there'll be more creatine stores. And some people load with creatine. They'll have like 25, 30 grams in one day, and then the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day, and then they'll just take 3 grams a day to maintain their creatine stores. It's like a little bar that you fill up. But if you take 3 grams a day every single day, there's no need to worry about all that. Your creatine stores after 2 weeks will eventually fill, and you'll be able to maintain that. Which is, it's pretty easy for just having 1 scoop of this fucking powder. You look bigger, you feel bigger, you move more weight, easy. Now let's get on to muscle protein synthesis. Muscle protein synthesis is, if you hadn't guessed, how your muscles can how your body can use protein to synthesize muscle. Sorry, I got that wrong way around. So this is a strange window. When you ingest protein, there's a 48-hour rebuilding process. Sorry, after you train, there's a 48-hour rebuilding process. And once you have a protein source, your rebuilding starts to go up, 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 and then it'll reach a peak, and then it'll just stay there for a little bit, and then it'll start to come back down, the effectiveness of the protein. So if you manage to catch it when it's at the peak, and then it's about to come down, and then you have some more protein, you'll be able to basically just maintain this extreme protein, muscle synthesizing, which means you'll just basically just get bigger in the long run without putting in any more effort. You don't have to train harder. You literally just 2 hours is the time. Every 2 hours have a scoop of protein, easy. 1 protein shake every 2 hours is not hard, is it? For the first, I'd say 10 hours I used to do. I don't really, do this as much anymore. Not really sure why. I just kind of do a bit more intermittent fasting nowadays. So if you're not worried about intermittent fasting or fasting or anything, then 1 scoop of protein after you train. Then again for every 2 hours that passes. So if you train at 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, boom, until 9 o'clock, and then that's it. Have 5 scoops of protein, sorted. And that should actually help you reach your protein goal. Yeah, 5 scoops of protein is 125 grams of protein. It's not bad at all. Caffeine. It's a little bit controversial in the gym scene. I've got quite a strange view on it. I think you should only use caffeine if you're going for big lifts. So, big compound movements, your bench press, your deadlift, your squat. So, twice a week. I think, is the maximum you should use caffeine in the gym, because otherwise you can build up a tolerance, first off, and second off, you can become dependent on it when you're in the gym. So having that dependency on it can lead to you feeling really weak and not as energized when you go to the gym when you don't have caffeine. Let's say you have caffeine 6 days a week, the days that you go to the gym. You know, every single time you go to the gym, you have a bloody pre-workout, 200, 300 grams of caffeine, milligrams, sorry. Fucking hell. Yeah, 300 milligrams of caffeine every time you go to the gym. The day that you don't have it, you will feel so unmotivated and so groggy. So I just don't think it's a good idea to rely on that. I think when you're having a PR day, some people do, or if you're going to be hitting a really hard chest session, you're going to be hitting 5 sets of bench press, go for it. Just don't overuse and abuse, because your lifts will go down if you do. The day that you don't take caffeine to the gym, you'll see like 20 kilos down on your bench press, you'll be crying. Anyway, the key to building muscle fast isn't just about what you're eating and what you're putting in your body. It's about how hard you're also working in the gym. And if you want to go from fat to jacked, transform your physique, go to crazy lean, then I've just made a video on that, about the one crucial step that I had a realization, and it made all the difference to me in my journey. So you won't regret watching that video. Check it out, it'll be on the end screen. Go click subscribe. Have a hard day and a great week. Mwah.